Hi, welcome back. My name is Austin. For today, we are going to focus on QuickBooks. And over the past couple of years here, I've been noticing a lot of problems that clients are coming to me with. So I figured I'd go ahead and talk about those on this channel. So, as you can see here, we have QuickBooks pulled up. I'm looking at both screens here. It's kind of weird. It's kind of flip flopped. But anyways, so, anyways, we got QuickBooks here and we are going to go over some invoicing with QuickBooks. Okay, as you can see, I have two tabs open. This is the sample company that comes with QuickBooks that you can play around with. And I'm also using the app version of QuickBooks Online. So it's like a desktop version of QuickBooks Online, and they do have a new desktop view version if you are able to get this. If you are an accountant, you should be able to get it. If you are a business, I believe you have to have advanced QuickBooks Online Advanced to have this app. And I'm starting to like it a little bit more every day. They do update it quite a bit on a weekly and daily, sometimes daily basis. Okay, so if you are on QuickBooks and you are able to get this app, I recommend it. It allows for, especially if you have more than one company, it allows for the switching of companies, and you can have multiple companies. Whereas the online version, you cannot have that. Uh, that you don't have that feature there because it's the way that I guess the API or the way the software is ran or coded is not, it doesn't allow for multiple companies or different companies to be pulled up at the same time. It will lock you out of the other company if you pull up another company. Okay. Anyways, so first things first. So we are in Craig's Design and Landscaping Services. There are a lot of things on here that are not up to date as far as like if you were keeping your books, you would have these up to date. So you will see a lot of that. So we're going to focus on is the invoices here. All right, which are going to be right here to the left. So if you're unfamiliar with this new tab, if you have a new invoice, you can enter all your information here, your invoices, receipt payments, so on and so forth. I recommend doing this. This is what I recommend. I would recommend opening a new tab when you do an invoice. I mean, it slows down the process. However, as a bookkeeper, I like to see the reaction of whatever I'm doing at that particular moment, just in case something happened or a date got entered incorrectly or something like that. So I recommend going over to sales and doing customers. You could also do invoices, but I recommend doing customers and then focusing on one particular customer at a time. If you have a lot of invoices to do, maybe it's not good to do this or it could slow the process down. But if you just have one or two invoices to do, I would recommend doing this. But as you can see, this is your time little stamp here, time bar, whatever you want to call it. You got paid, unpaid, and unbilled, and then your estimates there. On the bill side, you will have pretty much the same thing, but it'd be flopped as far as what bills and invoices go. Okay, so we're going to come down to here. We're going to push an invoice here. You can do this way, or you can do another way. I'm going to show you here in a minute. So we're going to focus on this Amy's Bird Sanctuary. So most people would probably go to the new tab here, and type in invoice or click on invoice rather. If they have a lot of invoices, I recommend doing this. If you just have a few, I recommend going to the customer tab under sales. Got sales and then customers here. And I am on the um, accountant view. You can also switch over to business view. I recommend using accounting view because it does give you some more features, whereas business view does not. They take a lot of those the craziness away from accounting, and they make it a little bit simplified. But me focusing on accounting or bookkeeping on a daily basis, I've become very familiar with this side of things rather than the business side. The business side, I find it hard to find things that I'm looking for, so I recommend switching over to this. All right. So as you can see here, you got your different invoices, payments, time charges, credit memos, so on and so forth, and your totals and your balances. Okay. So starting things off, you want to have this balance here. Okay. So how you do that? You click on this tab here, this little gear icon. You scroll down, and you'll see balance. You want to click on that. If you do not have that, that's how you receive that. I like having that there because it gives me a little bit more data that I may need for a particular time, and I can also glance at it very quickly and say, "Oh, okay, that's how much is due." Whereas if you don't have it, I'll show you what it looks like here. Whereas if you don't have it, you will see just overdue right there, but you don't know how much is overdue. Then you have to go through the process of finding that out. It does say that over here, but if you have a lot of overdues, you may not know exactly what is overdue for a particular invoice there. Okay, so I like to have the balance on there, so we're going to click on that. And you also can have that on the bill side as well if you pay partial payments on a bill. Okay, so like I said before, you have two ways to do this. You can type in bird sanctuary here, or Amy's bird sanctuary, which is right here. For invoices, you will have all this data come up. Hopefully it will. There it goes. And you want to enter this data before or when you're setting up your client or your customer. You want to have all this data entered. If you are sending the invoice to them, you have to have this, like Bert's, the email address, your billing address, so on and so forth. And then you can also set up a billing or recurring invoices or sales receipt, automatic sales receipt, so that when that sales receipt is sent, it is paid at the same time. You will have to get their information from them separately through a little paper that you can get offline with their credit card information or their debit card information on it, or their ACH, however they're going to send the payment. Okay, so it does take some time, usually about 5 to 6 days at times, to receive a payment. So do keep that in mind. It's not going to be instant. It does take some time, especially for the first payment. Usually, the thereafter it's a little bit faster, but the first payment is usually the longest. What I've noticed, other people may notice something different, but what I've noticed, it takes a few days longer than on the first payment than it does on any payments thereafter. Okay, so the reason I like focusing on this here, on this side of things, is because you can see it. Once you do the invoice, you can actually see the invoice here, okay? Which I like to see that because I know it's entered incorrectly or entered correctly, or whether it's entered incorrectly. All right. Another thing that you may want to do is go to your reports, click on your profit and loss or income statement, however you want to call it, and you can also see that reaction of when you enter the invoice. You can also do your balance sheet as well because you'll see that for the accounts payable. So we're going to have it here, and I also want to show you something too, to where you can see the time stamps on these particular invoices here, the received payments or the times for those invoices. So we're going to go here. We're going to do invoice, and I'm gonna type in, we'll say a $200 invoice for, we're gonna do the same time frame as here. Let's do 218. Okay, so we got the information automatically uploads if you use the customer side, and if you use the new invoice side, you will have to enter the client's uh, information in there, the customer name, and let's close this here. We don't need that, and then it will populate itself. Okay, net is going to be your due on receipt. So as soon as you send this off, it is due. They will have to pay it manually. And then if you want it automatic, you have to do a sales receipt. Some people like to have both. They like to have an invoice and then a sales receipt. So what I recommend doing is doing an automatic invoice, and then if maybe a few days later, you can send a sales receipt, and then once that receipt is paid or at the end of month closing, you can void the invoice. I do this for a couple clients. Void the invoice, and then if you have the sales receipt is actually for the prior month, so say that you get paid and you actually got paid on September 1st, but the invoice is or the sales receipt is actually for October, then you can push that date back. Okay, so that does make your reconciliation is a little bit crazy, but it's okay. I do that a couple times because that's the actual payment time frame. With the invoice, you can actually change those days. Excuse me. Okay, so you also have your invoice date and your due date. Your due date is going to be cash basis. Okay, so as you can see here, you have your cash and your accrual. Most small businesses have cash. I prefer using accrual method because it's a little bit more accurate than cash basis is. If you want to know how much cash you have, you can look at the bank account, right? Okay. And also, if you want to do a cash flow analysis, it's easier if you have everything on accrual basis where you can use bills as well as invoices and the like. All right, so it's a little bit easier, and you'll see cash basis or your cash flow here, as you can see there, and you can go over that. And we should go over that as well later on in the videos. All right, so we're going to enter in. So this is going to be accrual basis here. Invoice date is when the invoice was sent out, and then the due date is when it's supposed to get paid. However, if they paid at a different date, that date will not change when it comes to cash basis. So, for example, whatever this date is, this is what will be on the cash basis side of things. Whatever this date is what it will be on the invoice or the accrual method side of things. Okay, so if they paid this one here, 3 days later, it doesn't matter. It's still going to be this date on the cash basis. All right, so as we saw here, cash accrual, so do keep that in mind as well. If you want to change that, you would have to go in there and manually change it to make it the same as when they actually paid. Some people pay a little bit later, a couple few days later. Some people pay a few days early. So you have to go in there and manually do it. It's not going to do it by itself. It's just going to go off of whatever you said it was due. You also have your products and services that you can add. All right, you can add like design, for example, and it will populate. All of this is based off what you entered in before. We will go over that later on a future video here of how to do that. And then sometimes you'll have to make changes to this, which are pain, very much a pain. And we will talk about that later. And then you got your quality, or of course your description here, your quality, and it's not quality, quantity, and then your rate, and then that will populate automatically as well. So if I change up to $100, that will populate. If I go to three, it'll change to 300. Okay, so we'll switch back over. I believe it was 75. All right, then you also have your sales tax as well that will populate, but sometimes QuickBooks sales tax is inaccurate, so you may have to check with your tax office to decide. What your actual taxes should be, or you can do them manually. Like I do for a couple clients, I will do them manually because it varies so dramatically, and they some of them do not even use invoices because they have automatic payments coming in, like laundry places and stuff like that. You also got your percentage, if you have a percentage or your discount value, whether it's 50% off, so it jumps down to 37.50, or you can do a dollar amount. We can say $70 off, and it will jump down to $5. That's your balance due. And then you got your different areas. You can add a new area. This is California and Tucson, Arizona. And that will change depending on their particular location that they are in. All right, sales tax, I would get with your sales tax office or look on the internet for the particular information that is needed, because every state has their own sales tax laws, and also every area has their own sales tax laws as well. And I'm not a CPA, so I try not to harp on that too much, or discuss that too much, because each state, each location has different laws and all that kind of craziness. And I know Iowa, they have they changed it from or every quarter. They were paying every 3 months sales tax. Now they're doing it every month, so that did change. So do check with your tax office. Okay, so you have options of save and send, save and close, save and share link. It will give you a little link to that you can copy and paste, so on and so forth. If you need a link later, I'll show you how to do that. We're going to do save and close, and let's do what data we're going to use. Let's do the 18th because I want to show you something. 18th, let's do 318, and we're going to do due date as that one here. Okay, so we're going to do save and close. Wait for that to close up for us. If I am talking too much or not talking too much, but if I am talking too fast, please let me know. I only have 30 minutes to record this video according to this software that I'm using. So just do bear with me on that and let me know if I am talking too fast. And watch this video over again. And comment down below if I'm actually helping anybody. But I've seen this problem a lot. People get messed up with invoices and stuff. All right, Once the invoice, this is the invoice we just entered into the mix. You can change the number, of course. I would go with whatever the invoice that you are wanting to send or you have already sent. Some people, some clients will have their own software or different software for invoices, and we will have to enter them in manually. Of course, there are some integrations that you can purchase or use, but a lot of times they do not work to your benefit. Okay, so a lot of times you will have to enter them manually to work with QuickBooks. All right, when you do a received payment, this is very important to understand. There's a couple ways you can do this. Okay, so you can do this way, received payment. This is when you want to do this when you have received the money, however, it has not been deposited. Okay, now very important thing to keep in mind. If that is the case, never send it to the checking or savings account of where the money is supposed to go. That will happen automatically once those funds have been entered in or brung in. You always want to do undeposited funds. The reason for this is because if you cannot find an invoice or find a received payment, it's very easy to find if it is in undeposited funds. So if you go to new, go to bank deposits, all your undeposited funds will be in this little section here. These are undeposited funds. So you have the payments there. And if I click cool cars, and then you can see undeposited funds. If you put it in the check, you will not see it there. You will have to wait until you do your reconciliations or you have to search for it manually. All right. And this is very important, especially for partial payments. Okay, if this person paid $35 one time and then paid another 35 or whatever the money is the next time, then you can find those payments a lot easier and match those particular payments to that received payment or invoice. All right. So keep that in mind. Make sure it always goes to undeposited funds, not the checking account, not the savings account, especially not inventory asset or anything else. Okay, so try to keep that's later information, but try to keep things out of inventory asset. I very rarely put anything there. That's like a trash can or a bin or a cubby hole that you want to keep stuff just in case you need it or you're waiting to get more information on. Okay, when you receive the payment, say it's $75 total, you always want to have $75 is received going to undeposited funds. $75 is received, and then $75 is the payment. You have a zero credit. That is the goal for a zero credit. All right. However, if there was only $30 or $35 received, you want to put $35. And we're not going to do that one. We're going to do this one here. Okay. You want to make sure it's $35. All right. If it's not, if it is a credit, this is what you want to do. Okay. You want to zero this out. You want to make sure this is zero and then do the amount down here. They received a credit. That will give you a credit. All right. That is very important. Make sure you always have something here. If it's money, actually money received, that's not a credit. If it's a credit or if it has not been money received, but you're giving them a refund or a credit on this particular invoice, this invoice 1038, you want to have a credit. And then that will be entered in as a credit. And then you can move on and then get the rest of your money. All right, so we're going to say that $35 was paid. Actually, let's do the whole amount. We'll say $75 was paid. See how that's doing that? So I did $75, got a $40 credit, but it's not a $40 credit. We want to have 75 again. All right. So amount received, $75. They gave me $75. It's going to undeposited funds because I have not deposited the money in the bank account yet. And then you're going to put $75 because this is the invoice that you are taking from. Okay. All right, so we're going to do save and close. You could do save and send as well if you want to, but do save and close. We're not sending it to anyone, so we're going to do save and close. And then you can see that that invoice has been closed and the payment has been received. All right, so we see 318. Let's open that invoice back up because this is what happens. All right, a couple things happened. Okay. So when this invoice is entered in, you have two things that happen. It goes to the profit and loss statement, your income statement, and your accounts receivable. All right. And if you want to know more about that, if you care about your credits and debits, you can go down to the journal transaction and it will show you exactly credits and your debits of what's actually occurring. Your audit history shows what the last person that has messed with it or what has happened to that particular invoice. And then of course you got copy, void, delete. You always want to avoid if you need to delete something. However, those voids will be in your reconciliation, so you will have to make a determination whether they should actually be deleted later on. Okay, so if we want to go back and look at the cash and the accrual methods, this is how you're gonna do it. Okay, so I've had to change the date on one of these. The received payment was changed from I believe 3/18 to 4/17 to account for this due date here. Okay, so do keep that in mind. It was changed. I did have to edit the video a little bit to change that, but this is what's happening here. So your invoice date is going to be accrual. Your due date is going to be, or your due date is going to be your cash method or cash basis. Okay. So if we go back to your profit and loss here, you got accrual. You can see that invoice is 3/18, and we'll click on that, and that's your invoice that we were just messing with. Okay. If we switch over to a cash basis, you'll see that 316 right there. See that 316? And there's that. Go back here again. Oh, I'm not on cash basis. Ah, dog it. Right there. So we're going to go back over here, and there's that 417 right there. So you can see the 417. There's your cash basis. So that's how you understand and get familiar with and play with it a lot too as well. And that's the difference between those amounts. Okay. So do keep that in mind. If there was no received payment or if the money has not been deposited, there will not be a cash basis. There will be accrual. So for example, if I do accrual basis here, and we're going to go here to this invoice, this 318 invoice, and I think I'm still stuck on cash. Yeah, okay, this is good. All right, so we'll go back to there, 417, and let's say we delete this. So there was no received payment. All right, this is 417. Okay, so keep that in mind. 417, there was no received payment. So we got the 318. The invoice has not been paid. It's still sitting there. And then we switch over to cash and see the invoice has been gone. All right, that received payment is gone because there has not been a received payment. So there will be no cash in there. However, and a lot of companies run this, they run on cash basis, but they're actually doing a lot of things that are accrual method. So you have to keep that in mind. Just because I entered in the invoice, why is it not showing up? That's why, because you have not received payment on that. So you need to keep that in mind if you're running bills or receive payments, invoices on QuickBooks. You need to keep that in mind because if you are running invoices and bills, those are accrual method type things. They will not be calculated in the cash basis if those payments or those bills have not been received or sent out, depending on what they are. And that's pretty much it for today, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this helped a lot. If you do have questions, please ask me in the comment section down below. Also, like, subscribe, and comment down below. And if you have any more questions about other things in QuickBooks, and I will do my best to send those videos out. Thank you so much, and bless each and every one of you. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye bye.